Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. Alright, so this is going to be the last episode, and I'm recording this a bit early just because I feel like it, but it's going to be posted in quite some time, so I guess we'll have a bit of a celebration while we are here, and also I'm going to talk about kind of what's moving on for the rest of the channel later on. So thanks to all the channel members to see this. You're going to see this like 2 something months early, I don't know, something crazy like that, but thanks for coming here, and I know I might have like slacked off on getting episodes out early at times, but I'm doing my best and I'll try to do a bit better in the near future. Anyways, that's pretty cool and all, and I have a few episodes that will kind of just like sum up the rest of the series. I'll make a new episode if a new hero or a tower comes out, and we'll get on with some new series. So for the last time before a new hero or a new tower comes out, here is the bottom path of the Beast Handler, the Pooky, and then we have the Condor and the Eagle, and these guys are just pretty awesome. They do a bunch of stuff. It's a lot of high skill though. So the Golden Eagle is a mid-game stall. The Giant Condor can do a late-game stall, moving BFBs to a single lane, as well as doing a mid-game stall, and the Pooky does late-game damage. I'm not exactly sure how it's pronounced, Pooky, I just like to say Pooky because it's funny. And then here goes the stats. So these guys are all very, very unique towers. They don't really operate the same. So the stats kind of may look a little bit goofy, but the main thing to note is that as it's a beast handler, like, you'll be getting degrees. So I'll be pointing out some good degrees. For here, the Golden Eagle, you really want to get it to degree 24, really, if you want to have it to do something. The Condor, on the other hand, you can just have it as degree 17 with your kind of, I guess, more so intel bird that would allow it to see further. That will allow it to drag BFBs out, and then you could also go 41 or 64 to get more drag power. And then Pooky, I don't really add any degree power to this guy in Chimps mode. He just seems to be able to do everything you need to do on the base, and he's all pretty good. It's just better to get like more support like a Sabo or Relentless Glue on top of it. So that's all pretty good and pretty cool. Anyways, cross paths, of course, cross paths don't really matter. They're beast handlers. But you usually want to get some birds around it to kind of make the range larger. That will allow you to be able to drag things out further, and it also is important to note that they don't have to connect in order for the drag to take place there. So for heroes that are good with the tier 5, the Pooky, anything that's really great mid-game, because mid-game is where the struggle. Once you get the Pooky, everything's super easy. But the other towers, the Golden Eagle, all that stuff, they're just support towers, so whatever will fit into your strategy will work out. And for the maps that the towers are good with, you can use it on any single map. Just to note though, that the Pooky really is only strong in Chimps mode on single lane maps, but when it comes to the multi-lane maps, you really can do a lot of cool things with the tier 3 and the tier 4, where they can drag Bloons over to make them single lane maps. I'll show you that later. So its pros that it's extremely powerful stall, win condition tier 5, unique abilities. Its con is that the tier 5 is a big save up, it's hard to use, and it also requires a lot of planning. So I'm going to be going on to the 2 examples here, both of which are going to use Pooky, the tier 5, and I'm going to be doing it kind of in like 2, I guess, different categories. We're going to just be looking at a super easy chill round on a single lane map, which is where Pooky is best, but I'm going to show you that you kind of can use it a little bit on harder maps. It just isn't that good though, and if you're going for a really easy black border, I generally wouldn't recommend it. However, on a good single lane map like this, it's going to be really cool and really chill. So I'm just going to be starting off here with the Addosaurus early game. Just because we're using these beast handlers, we might as well use the Addosauruses, and that will kind of take out a lot of the early Bloons for us. And then we could use these guys to get into our big birds. So then we're just going to be getting the degree 6 up there. That's going to destroy the Bloons. We're going to have Quincy doing a lot of work, which is really nice. And I can go for the bird, and that can just drag stuff. Between these 2 guys, they really can do do a lot. The one thing that you need to note is that round 40 may put a wrench in your plan, so just have something to be able to take that out nice and easy, and you're all going to be good. Here I'm just going to alch buff Quincy. I'm using the ability he's going to do quite well. That will be all really nice. And if you did not know, yes, you can put the dinosaur in the crater. A lot of these maps were made so they kind of just had like maybe a few pixels that you could place by accident, I guess, but you couldn't really place any towers in a few pixel range. But when the Beast Handler and Geraldo came out, there were sub towers that were placeable with just like the tiniest of hitboxes possible, so you can get them in there. Anyways, for round 40, I decided to get a Never Miss Ace. That's going to be able to take out round 40 nice and easy. We'll get a discount village up, and I'll throw a mortar in there to be able to decamo everything, and then we'll start working on our bird. We're going to need to get all 4 of these guys up to tier 5, so we can't do any like super cheap mass discounting. So we're going to get 1 Condor up, then 2 Condor up, 3 Condor up, 4 Condor up, and then save the 32k. So 32k doesn't look like it's that expensive, but with 4 Condors, it is quite pricey. However, you really get a super strong tower when you're done. So I'm just going to be speeding through all of this. We can set the bird either on strong or first. If you kind of need more like cleanup, I guess setting it on first is good, but if you have a good amount of cleanup, you can do it on strong just so it grabs the BFBs. I tend to like switch it around depending on what towers I have, so just keep that in mind. I think here I had it on strong, but I switched around, and when you get the Pooky, you kind of need to have it on first, or else you're gonna just start like leaking a bunch of stuff. Either that or you have like an insane amount of cleanup, but with that amount of money that you're spending, I really don't think you'd have that insane amount of cleanup. Another thing to note is kind of this concept that I'll get into, which is that it takes an amount of time for the Pooky to get to its target and then drag it all the way back to the location that it's set. So sometimes, and I'll talk about this later in the other example, it's not always exactly optimal to have the drag location as far back on the track as possible, because it's going to take a long time for the Pooky, or just the bird in general, any tier, to go from that location back and forth. And when the distance gets long, it's going to take far too long to grab like pretty much anything, and you're just going to leak. So you want to know where the balloons are going to be dying, where your kind of defense takes everything, and put it kind of just like a little bit outside, so the distance it takes to drag something is short and everything works out pretty well. Anyways, I got my Pooky here. He's on first, and he's just ripping apart everything. If you have a single lane map, especially if it has a bend or something, the Pooky, the distance to travel is going to be short, everything's going to be nice and easy, and it's just going to be going to grab everything. And this is without any degrees added. You don't really have to add any degrees, and it's just going to be doing so much. I maybe grab like a little bit of support and stuff, maybe a Moab glue, and then you also could get other birds to cover its range. But here's a cool thing: if the map has like a decent amount of length, or even if it's short, it's going to do a decent amount of damage to around 100. On a shorter map, of course, you need to grab something that will help out against around 100, but like the thing just took out the bad a pretty decent amount of time, so that's pretty cool. Anyways, let's take a look at an example of how you can use the other birds kind of as stalling in the mid game or as late game support. So as you can see here, you can use the degree 24 Condor to just drag Moabs back. Set this guy on strong and use it in the mid game, as like if I'm trying to save up for maybe this Apache dart ship, I can just have the Golden Eagle bringing the Moab back. It's going to make a lot less pain on the Apache dart ship trying to beat some of these harder, denser rounds. You can also use it to create multi-lane maps into single-lane maps like I'm showing here on Ravine. This is a very advanced strategy. You're going to see this like a lot on expert chimps, so don't really worry about it if you're just going to try to get your black borders. But it is a really cool thing, so I might as well show it to you right now. And you can also just use the Condor like I showed with the degree 24 Golden Eagle. With the Condor, you're going to be able to drag BFBs, so that's going to be pretty nice. You can just have a Condor on strong, moving stuff in your mid game. It's also going to be really nice in the late game as just support to keep moving some BFBs back. It's also pretty good, like if you're trying to have like get low pierce towers to kind of do much, you're going to be moving potential pierce, so it would get like chew up the rest of your defense kind of back. So the next example that I'm going to be showing is going to be using the Pooky again, but this time we're going to be getting a little bit crazy. We're going to be doing it on a multi-lane map. This, as I said before, it isn't as good as on multi-lane maps. In fact, it's significantly worse on multi-lane maps, but if you're so inspired, you kind of can get it to work if the lanes are kind of close, because it's when the bird is dragging stuff, it's going to take time to drag, and that's kind of the thing that I mentioned before. But when you have multi-lane maps, you're going to have to be dragging from one lane over to the other frequently, and that just takes a lot more time, so it can be a bit more tricky. So we're going to try to get this to work. Just generally though, if you're trying to get black borders, I wouldn't really recommend it, but there's also some other cool tips and tricks that you'll see in this run, so you might as well stay for the rest of it. I'm going to be getting another early game carry here. We're going to be getting this Arcane Magistrate, super cool. It's a tier 3 top path wizard that just takes out Bloons really well. It has great pierce and a decent amount of damage, enough for your early game, so you can really use this guy to do a lot, especially with Oben here at the back. He's going to be doing more cleanup. Everything's going to be super easy in the early game, plus that guy's going to deal with camo. So we'll outbuff that, and then later get that to Arcane Spike, which will deal damage in the mid game, and it's going to work out really well. It's just going to be more than enough when we have our Condor dragging stuff back, and then I'll also get a Ball Lightning back here to kind of deal with the Bloons. So this is going to be, I guess, my trifecta for dealing with all of the stuff in the mid game, plus we'll have our Condor dealing with stuff too, with outbuffed Oben and the Brambles and the Tornado. Round 40 is just going to get absolutely destroyed. Really cool way to beat round 40. Oben makes the early game really easy a lot of the times. So as you can see here, I am not using those beast handlers for the early game because the Allosaurus just is not going to do much. So we're just going to avoid using those beast handlers. It's not like a Golden Eagle without degree 24 is going to be doing much. So, and because we can't get that before round 40, we'll just avoid that. Get our other stuff up first, make sure we have a good footing. So get that stronger stimulant, so we're buffing the Arcane Spike, Oben. They're both pretty good. Well, Arcane Spike isn't like exceptionally good with outbuff, but Oben's really cool with outbuff. So we'll have all of that. We're going to be doing more damage there. And then we'll get Ball Lightning in the back, Druid, Village to get everything drums and all sorts. We also can discount stuff. And now let's get all of our merges up for our degree 64 Condor. So that's going to be the 4 Condors, and then that will allow us to unlock the Pooky, and we'll be getting the funky Pooky up. Now the reason why I decided to also show this is that it's more like a real example of dragging Bloons to one other side. And as you can see there, as I mentioned before, it's not necessarily going to be the best in a lot of situations to have the location where the Bloons get dragged to as the front of the map. Like as you can see here, I'm pushing it more to kind of this area so that it isn't going to take forever for the drag to happen. But I am also, as you can see, dragging stuff from one lane to the other, which is kind of like the idea that you might see as a very kind of simplified version. When you're going into like expert chimp stuff and doing this, you're going to be using like a lot of crazy positionings and using close targeting a lot of the times too, maybe even last, strong, and first, like all of the targetings to get a bunch of like manipulative stuff. But this is kind of just a really simple version of it that you can see. You can also use this like in a black border too. Just something this simple is going to be pretty reliable. You just take stuff from one lane and move it to the other with the Condor. Another thing to note is that a lot of times for the multi-lane maps, one is shorter than the other, and what is considered a first isn't always consistent. Like it may look like that's the first target, but it isn't actually, because the lane is shorter. So that can like sometimes mess up where the Condor will, not where the Condor is going to be dragging stuff, but how far into the lane the Condor will deem that target to be first and drag it into. So for the top lane, that lane is a lot longer, so we're going to kind of see Bloons being targeted as first way later on. So for the short lane, a Bloon doesn't have to go as far to be considered first, and then it's going to get dragged over. So as you can see on like round 81, 82 there, I was able to drag everything over and practically make it a single lane map, which I guess does give us an advantage here with the Condor. It's really good. However, with Pooky, as we're just doing a bunch of damage, it necessarily isn't like the best. You really kind of see Condor shine in this run the most. Now, I did mention that round 85 is where you do want to get Pooky, and that's kind of why I overspent just a little bit. So if I wanted to make this a bit easier, I would have done a little bit of work, but luckily Condor was able to drag everything over, which made it pretty easy, I guess, in that situation, but it was still kind of close. So I'd just try to keep in mind that you might not be as lucky on round 85 there, but you do want to get stuff by 85. Anyways, we got Pooky there, and everything looks like it's pretty good. Like, we just drag everything over, and then we'll deal damage. But when you get, like, giant rushes of stuff, it isn't that good. So I'm going to need to be prepared for that. Like, round 95 can be pretty bad. Round 89 got there pretty close, some stuff was getting through, so we're going to need to get ready for Ubin to be able to grab stuff. Like, as you can see, the DDTs there were pretty tricky, so I'm going to need to get Camo on this glue gunner. We're going to have to get that guy up to, like, Relentless, grab some Sabos, all that stuff. The bigger stuff, like the ZUMGs, like round 97, 98, that's going to be easy, but the DDTs are going to be a bit of an issue. So you can see why I wouldn't, like, necessarily recommend it, but if it is possible, it is something that you can do just because there's so many advantages that you get from using, like, Condor and Pooky on multi-lane maps for, like, heavier rounds like 98. It's just going to make everything super easy compared to if you're using a regular strategy on a multi-lane map. But other things like rushes like round 96 here, round 95 are just significantly trickier. So I guess it's a trade-off, but is it really worth it sometimes? I don't know. Nonetheless, this round was a really good showcase of how strong the Condor is, and I guess even Golden Eagle too, if you have it to degree 24 on multi-lane maps. It's just so incredibly good, and I guess you can see that the world's easiest round 98 over literally drags everything over and takes out the entirety of round 98 like it's nothing. I'll have the Sabo up for round 99, use that. I maybe used it a little bit late because I was distracted trying to place my spike factories, but we're just gonna get 2 spike storms and embrittlement there, and blast open round 100. I guess round 99 and 95 would have been a bit easier if I was getting those spike storms up a little bit earlier, but I guess you get the point.
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!